A plane that hits a skydiver isn't just bad for the jumper, it can be fatal for the pilot as well. So airplanes and parachuters, can they live in harmony and safely? Let's find out in the hangar. Welcome to In the Hangar. I'm Dan Milliken.
And I'm Christy Wong. Today's episode is brought to you by Gold Seal and iFly GPS.
Okay, Christy, we're going to be talking about jumping out of a plane, which is something that I'm going to get you to do at some point, but you haven't yet.
I have not, and I don't intend to at this point.
No, you will. I heard you said you would do it, so we will get you to do that.
I have since retracted my statement. I just don't see the merit in jumping out of a perfectly good airplane.
Okay, we will get Christy jumping out of an airplane, but that's not what this episode is about. Let's talk about safety around jumping operations and what GA pilots and how they can not hit the jumpers.
Okay, that I can do.
Yeah.
Okay.
So joining us today, I'll throw $1 in the kitty there for that one. Joining us today is Heath Richardson from
Skydive Spaceland Dallas.
Skydive Spaceland Dallas. Heath, thank you so much for coming and being with us and bringing up the serious subject of safety for the general aviation community with the jumping operations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I made my first skydive in 1995. I was 17 years old. Did it one time out of a 182, small little airport in Amarillo, Texas, and didn't think anything of it. Just thought, well, that was fun, young teenager. About a year later, I thought, hey, I want to do that again. And then about a month later, I want to do that again. And the next thing I knew, I was out there every weekend, and I was hooked. Went into the military and then just spent all my free time and all my free money skydiving. Did that when I got out of active duty military. Did that full time for about 8 years. And then spending so much time in airplanes, a lot of front right seat rides in Twin Otters, just started growing an interest in flying myself and kind of making that my career. So I did that in 2001, started flying, got my private. The following year, got my commercial, started flying jumpers as soon as I had that. 182 for a season, and then on to Caravans and Twin Otters and flown Skyvans, and so pretty much all turbines now. So that's what I've made my career of over the close to the last 20 years, is flying skydivers, affectionately known as a diver driver or a jumper dumper.
Were you a paratrooper in the military?
I didn't. I didn't do any skydiving or parachuting in the military. Once they found out I was doing that on my own, they offered me a slot at jump school.
Oh, really?
Which can be hard to come by. But I was like, no, my landings are tiptoe. I come in nice and soft, and I've seen how the military does it. I didn't want any part of that.
That's understood. Okay, let's just jump right into it. What are some of the challenges that you face as a skydiving operation concerning GA traffic in and around the airspace?
So, in skydiving, every 5 years or so, a new discipline will emerge. You've seen the wingsuiting is really popular, probably in the last 10 years. That's really exploded.
Oh, those guys in the big wingsuits?
Squirrel suits.
Yeah, I've seen those guys, yeah.
Hugely popular and they're not, right? So when that was new, of course, a whole host of safety concerns came of that. And with each new discipline, like about every 5 years or so, something new will emerge in skydiving. And, a lot of loose ends. And we kind of have to reel it in and get our training curriculums in place and kind of get people calmed down. Hey, there's a way to do this safely, and let's make sure that we're all doing that. And we're really good about that, really successful with that. But the thing that I've seen continue over my last 25 years in the sport that has just not really gone away is GA aircraft incursions in the active skydive airspace. Part of that, I believe, comes from, most drop zones are away from the heavily controlled airspace. For the most part, you're not going to see a big skydiving operation that's operating in and out of the Class Bravo, for example. Right. We will do skydives sometimes if we're...
Yeah, into a stadium or something, a special event.
Exactly. But so it's kind of a blessing and a curse. We have the freedom out there in that Class C out in the country where we are, that we don't really have to have any restrictions put upon us. But that's also can be, a practice area for student pilots, for example. And because we're farther away from that controlled airspace, people can just tend to think that there's nothing to really worry about out here, especially North Texas. It's nice and flat. There are no mountains. There are no towers. It's a nice, beautiful summer day.
We don't need to look for anything anymore.
And where they're just putting around, and unbeknownst to them, they've just flown right through the area of an active drop zone.
So what have you done to help promote the safety in and around the community?
So first of all, we do everything that we're required to, obviously. We're a by-the-book type of operation. We're one of the country's biggest skydiving operations.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yep, we run 2 turbine aircraft, a de Havilland Twin Otter and a Cessna Caravan.
How many operations do you do per day typically?
Well, for example, this weekend, we did almost 50 flights yesterday.
Wow.
Between the 2 aircraft.
Not realize that.
Oh my
And
gosh.
today I was just checking our load clock just before we stepped in here, and I think they're at about 40-ish as well. So everybody,
Whoa.
first really nice weekend of the year, so everybody's coming out of the woodwork.
Get it while the getting's good.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So each of those planes are holding, about 2 dozen jumpers. So doing that, 40 to 50 times a day. That's a lot of skydives.
That many people want to jump out of an airplane.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
So, okay.
And about half of those would be the first timers doing tandems, and the rest would be either students working on their license or, experienced licensed jumpers.
Okay. So you are promoting awareness in the community.
Exactly.
So what are the things that you're required to do?
Right. So the 3 main things is we're going to have a NOTAM on file, right? We're a permanent operation, so we have a permanent NOTAM on file. One of the things, of course, that would come up if you're getting a briefing, standard weather briefing.
But did that also result in the jumping icon going on to the sectional?
Exactly. That parachute symbol on the sectional, yep, that'll generate one of those. The next thing is that we're in constant communication with ATC, right? We get airborne and we immediately check in. For us, it's Fort Worth Center. And it's kind of like a flight following. It's a VFR flight, but they're basically just keeping an eye on us. We check in with them, give them a 2-minute call before jumpers away. They'll do a scan of the airspace, no observed traffic, in your vicinity, or hey, Skydive 1, there's an aircraft kind of pointing your direction. He's 5 miles away, et cetera, et cetera. And then, of course, we may, result.
Make a decision to circle or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. And that happens quite a bit, which is one of the reasons I'm here. So then the third thing is we're in constant communication with our ground personnel. They all also have eyes to the skies, ears, and so they can alert us to any other aircraft in the area that we're not communicating with. So those are the 3 main things that we're required to do.
Now you do additional things above and beyond that, correct?
Exactly.
Okay, what do you do?
What I've done a couple years ago, we created a flyer. We distributed hard copies to, a dozen or 2 dozen of our local airports, the FBOs and flight schools. And then a few times a year, I'll share that on some of the social media sites. And it's been great. We've had a really positive outcome. We have definitely noticed a decrease in incursions, and then an also increase of people being proactive. They're transiting the area and will call us up. Hey, are you guys active today? Hey, we sure are. Cool. I'll steer clear. I'll give you 5 miles. Awesome, man. Thanks for the radio call.
I saw your flyer at the flight school I used to work for.
Cool.
And
Oh, really?
yeah, I did. And so what I did, I was taking instrument students out that way to do DME arcs around the VOR. And instead of going this way, we would track the VOR on the airway, and then I would turn them north. Or I would call if I was just going straight to the VOR, and I would actually talk to whomever on your frequency, and I actually got a response back a couple of times, skydive operations in progress or whatever. And it gave me the knowledge to go a little further north or what have you. It was very helpful, actually.
Cool.
So thank you for the flyers.
Yeah, and thanks for the call.
Yeah.
Is the biggest problem simply incursion of aircraft, and then it just means you hold off? Or do you have, is there a bigger problem?
So best case scenario, if everything that's in place works the way that we want it to, best case scenario is that we just hold the jumpers. We're burning Jet A,
Right.
and sometimes some of these busy weekends when everybody is out and you can't blame them, we started tracking it, and we had one day cumulatively we held for about an hour.
Wow.
And as you know, these turbines are not cheap to operate.
Do you find that the general aviation, the old people or old and older,
bold.
or old or bold people, are they getting crotchety and going, well, I own the airspace just as much as they do. I get to do my practice here if I want to. Are you finding that kind of an attitude?
I don't think I've ever encountered that type of
Okay, good.
Yep. No, everybody has been very receptive, very responsive. I think it's a matter of just being, just in a literal sense, just ignorant of our existence. They just
Okay.
don't know that we're there. And we'll reach out also while we're airborne. We'll try to, if we do have an aircraft that's kind of loitering and it's like, man, is this guy ever going to get out of the way? We'll start dialing up, all the different local frequencies and see if we can get a hold of them.
So this guy would be within 5 miles of the airport and is not on the frequency for the airport?
Correct.
Wow.
Or 22.8 or any of the other, most common frequencies. Occasionally, somebody will be monitoring one of those, and we'll be able to get a hold of them and say, hey, just let you know, you're either inside or right near an active skydive operation area. If you could please do everybody a favor and just give us a little bit of a berth. When we do reach them, same thing. They're always very receptive. Oh, yeah, absolutely, no problem. I didn't know you guys were there.
Yeah, that's usually what I've found as well. What's the closest call you've experienced?
Closer than I care to remember.
Oh.
And I've brought some videos to you guys. So that's best case scenario, right? We just hold the jumpers and we wait it out. Okay, cool. Worst case is we've checked all of our boxes. We as pilots have our eyes out, also scanning for aircraft. The jumpers, just before they exit, they are scanning for aircraft below us. ATC is looking on the radar scope, and our ground personnel. Everybody's doing their best to give the thumbs up to say, hey, we're clear, go ahead and launch the jumpers. But occasionally, maybe because of a low altitude that ATC can't see them on the radar, or maybe they're just overworked and miss an aircraft, or maybe an aircraft is far away and heading away, and they just do a 180 at the last after we've released jumpers. Some scenario like that where, we thought we were in the clear, the jumpers exit, and lo and behold, here comes an aircraft heading right for them. And that happens, again, more than I'd care to remember. And that's the big concern. That's worst case scenario. There are, online you can find them just until you run out of battery on your phone looking at these close calls. And the scariest one is a jumper in free fall. They are mostly vertical flight, mostly straight down, although some of with the wingsuiters, they can move horizontally pretty good. But most skydivers are heading straight down anywhere between 10,000 feet a minute and 15,000 feet a minute. Anywhere from 120 miles an hour to 200 plus. And say just on average a 200-pound individual with their gear. So that's the scariest thing because the skydiver doesn't have a ton of maneuverability, laterally, horizontally. And of course, the aircraft pilot is not going to see them coming from directly above. So there's really no way for either one of them to practice see and avoid at that point, right? Which is how we mostly keep safe on our VFR flights. And of course, it's just going to be, devastating. There's no recovering from that type of thing if there's a collision with a skydiver in free fall. That's absolute worst case scenario. Next down is once the skydivers have deployed their parachutes, anywhere between 3,000 and 5,000 feet typically, that descent rate usually slows to between 1,000 to maybe 2,000 feet a minute. And they're a glider. And at that point, it's much easier, much more visible. If you might have a 200 square feet parachute, bright colored oftentimes. And this is a scenario, we'll have an aircraft, like I said, we didn't know they were there. Here they are once the jumpers are opening, and the pilot will see them. And he'll have a windshield full of 20 bright parachutes right in front of him and do a steep turn and clear out. And as bad as that is, at least he's probably going to remember that we're there, and hopefully that won't happen with him again. But it's not uncommon that guys go right through and never even know that we were there. They never have any idea of how close the jumpers came to him.
What advice would you give to GA pilots operating just out and about as far as skydive operations and awareness? What can we do as pilots?
It's the same that we're supposed to do on any flight, the way I look at it. Both our legal obligation, some of the FARs, but also the common sense. Do our due diligence, gather all pertinent information to your flight. be it ensuring that the aircraft is airworthy, performance data for the airports you're going to be operating in, your weather, any terrain, obstacles, and NOTAMs. And we all know about NOTAMs, right? You can get, a book worth of NOTAMs, and they could just be the most irrelevant things. But getting a briefing, many times I've called for a VFR briefing before, I'm relocating an aircraft, and they'll tell me about a drop zone. Like, oh yeah, I know them, they're my buddies. Or sometimes about a drop zone that I didn't know existed. Maybe it's just a small mom and pop operation that just popped up that I didn't know. So for sure, getting the telephone briefing, it's worked for me. The next thing would be studying the sectional along your route of flight. And if, it's easier if you're going from a point A to point B. If you're just going to be going out to your backyard and playing around, maybe a little more difficult just because it's a larger area. But we do have those parachute symbols on the sectional for sure. As well as now, ForeFlight has one of their more recent updates, has done a cool thing. If you have the aeronautical layer selected on the sectional, it'll draw a ring, the PJA, the parachute jump area ring around that airport. And saying if you give it the tap, it'll pop up with all the pertinent information.
Very cool.
The next thing would be getting flight following, talking to somebody ATC, because for sure they're going to know about us, and they're going to either at a minimum tell you of where we're at and what we're doing, or maybe even give you some vectors around us.
How big of a problem is it? Are you getting any near misses? Like you did 40, 50 drops yesterday, 40 today. Out of that, did you have one near miss, no near misses, a near miss once a month? Or is this something that's more like a daily problem?
I would say almost daily with the incursions.
With the incursions.
With the incursions of as far as, maybe nuisance aircraft of where we're having to hold. And again, VFR pilots can be unpredictable. They're out sightseeing and enjoying their flight. Good on them. But so they can just be zigzagging around. And so we have no way of knowing of their, predicted course. But people coming close enough that we have to hold jumpers, almost a daily occurrence. As far as actual close calls of people flying right through the jumpers, the jump run, that's probably a few times a month at least.
Wow.
Wow. I did not realize that was that big of a problem.
Yeah. Which is exactly why I've reached out to you guys. I saw your online presence. Thought, man, what a great avenue. I love what you guys do. It's a great way, to educate and inform and to share information and experiences, but in a fun, cool way.
Okay, so thanks, Heath, for coming on the show and letting us know about this. And for you guys out there that are flying, get all the information. Be aware of that parachute map symbol over, especially those just outside the metropolitan areas, outside the Bravo, into Class G airspace. Look for that parachute symbol. Make sure that you're aware of jumpers, and let's give them some space. There's plenty of other places to go fly. So do your homework, and let's stay safe. Let's keep them safe. And leave comments if you've had an experience in a plane with jumpers, or if you're a jumper that's had an experience with other planes, leave us a comment. Please like, share, subscribe. We really appreciate you guys watching, and we'll see you guys next time.
In the hangar.